Constitution of India. Part 2. Citizenship. Article 7. Rights of citizenship of certain migrants to Pakistan. Notwithstanding anything in Articles 5 and 6, a person who has after the first day of March, 1947, migrated from the territory of India to the territory now included in Pakistan shall not be deemed to be a citizen of India, provided that nothing in this article shall apply to a person who, after having so migrated to the territory now included in Pakistan, has returned to the territory of India, under a permit for resettlement, or permanent return, issued by or under the authority of any law, and every such person shall for the purposes of Clause B of Article 6, be deemed to have migrated to the territory of India after the 19th day of July, 1948. Constitution of India. Part 2. Citizenship. Article 8. Rights of citizenship of certain persons of Indian origin, residing outside India. Notwithstanding anything in Article 5, any person who or either of whose parents, or any of whose grandparents, was born in India, as defined in the Government of India Act, 1935 as originally enacted, and who is ordinarily residing in any country, outside India, as so defined, shall be deemed to be a citizen of India, if he has been registered, as a citizen of India, by the diplomatic or consular representative of India, in the country, where he is for the time being, residing. On an application, made by him therefore to such diplomatic or consular representative, whether before or after the commencement of this Constitution, in the form and manner prescribed by the Government of the Dominion of India, or the Government of India. Constitution of India. Part 2. Citizenship. Article 9. Persons, voluntarily acquiring citizenship of a foreign state, not to be citizens. No person shall be a citizen of India by virtue of Article 5, or be deemed to be a citizen of India by virtue of Article 6 or Article 8, if he has voluntarily acquired the citizenship of any foreign state. Constitution of India. Part 2. Citizenship. Article 10. Continuance of the rights of citizenship. Every person, who is, or is deemed to be a citizen of India, under any of the foregoing provisions, of this part shall, subject to the provisions of any law that may be made by Parliament, continue to be such citizen. Constitution of India. Part 2. Citizenship. Article 11. Parliament, to regulate the right of citizenship by law. Nothing in the foregoing provisions of this part shall derogate from the power of Parliament to make any provision with respect to the acquisition and termination of citizenship and all other matters relating to citizenship. Constitution of India. Part 3. Fundamental Rights. General. Article 12. Definition. In this part, unless the context otherwise requires, the state includes the Government and Parliament of India, and the Government and the legislature of each of the states, and all local or other authorities within the territory of India, or under the control of the Government of India. Constitution of India. Part 3. Fundamental Rights. General. Article 13. Laws, inconsistent with, or in derogation of the fundamental rights. All laws in force, in the territory of India, immediately before the commencement of this Constitution, insofar as they are inconsistent with the provisions of this part, shall, to the extent of such inconsistency, be void. The state shall not make any law, which takes away, or abridges, the rights conferred by this part, and any law, made in contravention of this clause, shall, to the extent of the contravention, be void. In this article, unless the context otherwise requires, law includes any ordinance, order, bylaw, rule, regulation, notification, custom or usage having, in the territory of India, the force of law. Laws in force includes laws passed or made by a legislature or other competent authority, in the territory of India, before the commencement of this Constitution, and not previously repealed, notwithstanding that any such law, or any part thereof, may not be then in operation, either at all, or in particular areas. Nothing in this article shall apply to any amendment of this Constitution, made under Article 368. Constitution of India. Part 3. Fundamental Rights. Right to equality. Article 14. Equality before law. The state shall not deny to any person equality before the law, or the equal protection of the laws within the territory of India. Constitution of India. Part 3. Fundamental Rights. Right to equality. Article 15. Prohibition of discrimination on grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth. The state shall not discriminate against any citizen on grounds only of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, or any of them. No citizen shall, on grounds only of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, or any of them, be subject to any disability, liability, restriction, or condition, with regard to access to shops, public restaurants, hotels, and places of public entertainment, or the use of wells, tanks, bathing ghats, roads, and places of public resort, maintained wholly or partly out of state funds, or dedicated to the use of the general public. Nothing in this article shall prevent the state from making any special provision for women and children. Nothing in this article, or in Clause 2 of Article 29, shall prevent the state from making any special provision for the advancement of any socially and educationally backward classes of citizens, or for the scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes. Nothing in this article or in subclause G of Clause 1 of Article 19 shall prevent the state from making any special provision, by law, for the advancement of any socially and educationally backward classes of citizens, or for the scheduled castes or the scheduled tribes, insofar as such special provisions relate to their admission to educational institutions, including private educational institutions, whether aided or unaided by the state, other than the minority educational institutions referred to in Clause 1 of Article 30. Nothing in this article or subclause G of Clause 1 of Article 19 or Clause 2 of Article 29 shall prevent the state from making any special provision for the advancement of any economically weaker sections of citizens, other than the classes mentioned in clauses 4 and 5. And any special provision for the advancement of any economically weaker sections of citizens other than the classes mentioned in clauses 4 and 5, insofar as such special provisions relate to their admission to educational institutions, including private educational institutions, whether aided or unaided by the state, other than the minority educational institutions, referred to in Clause 1 of Article 30. Which in the case of reservation would be in addition to the existing reservations, and subject to a maximum of 10% of the total seats in each category. Explanation. For the purposes of this article, and Article 16, economically weaker sections shall be, such as, may be notified by the state, from time to time on the basis of family income, and other indicators of economic disadvantage. Constitution of India. Part 3. Fundamental Rights. Right to equality. Article 16. Equality of opportunity in matters of public employment. There shall be equality of opportunity for all citizens in matters relating to employment or appointment to any office under the state. No citizen shall, on grounds only of religion, race, caste, sex, descent, place of birth, residence or any of them, be ineligible for, or discriminated against in respect of, any employment or office under the state. Nothing in this article shall prevent Parliament from making any law, prescribing, in regard to a class, or classes, of employment, or appointment to an office, under the government of, or any local or other authority, within a state or union territory. Any requirement as to residence within that state or union territory prior to such employment or appointment. Nothing in this article shall prevent the state from making any provision for the reservation of appointments, or posts, in favor of any backward class of citizens, which, in the opinion of the state, is not adequately represented in the services under the state. Nothing in this article shall prevent the state from making any provision for reservation, in matters of promotion, with consequential seniority, to any class or classes of posts in the services under the state, in favor of the scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes, which, in the opinion of the state, are not adequately represented in the services under the state. Nothing in this article shall prevent the state from considering any unfilled vacancies of a year, which are reserved for being filled up in that year, in accordance with any provision for reservation made under Clause 4 or Clause 4a, as a separate class of vacancies to be filled up in any succeeding year or years, and such class of vacancies shall not be considered together with the vacancies of the year in which they are being filled up for determining the ceiling of 50% reservation on total number of vacancies of that year. Nothing in this article shall affect the operation of any law, which provides that the incumbent of an office in connection with the affairs of any religious or denominational institution, or any member of the governing body thereof, shall be a person professing a particular religion or belonging to a particular denomination. Nothing in this article shall prevent the state from making any provision for the reservation of appointments or posts in favor of any economically weaker sections of citizens, other than the classes mentioned in Clause 4, in addition to the existing reservation, and subject to a maximum of 10% of the posts in each category. Constitution of India. Part 3. Fundamental Rights. Right to equality. Article 17. Abolition of untouchability. Untouchability is abolished and its practice in any form is forbidden. The enforcement of any disability arising out of untouchability shall be an offence punishable in accordance with law. Constitution of India. Part 3. Fundamental Rights. Right to equality. Article 18. Abolition of titles. 1. No title, not being a military or academic distinction, shall be conferred by the state. 2. No citizen of India shall accept any title from any foreign state. 3. No person who is not a citizen of India shall, while he holds any office of profit or trust under the state, accept without the consent of the President any title from any foreign state. 4. No person holding any office of profit or trust under the state shall, without the consent of the President, accept any present, emolument, or office of any kind from or under any foreign state. Constitution of India. Part 3. Fundamental Rights. Right to freedom. Article 19. Protection of certain rights regarding freedom of speech, etc. All citizens shall have the right a. to freedom of speech and expression, b. to assemble peaceably and without arms, c. to form associations or unions or cooperative societies, d. to move freely throughout the territory of India, a. to reside and settle in any part of the territory of India, and g. to practice any profession, or to carry on any occupation, trade or business. Nothing in sub-clause A of clause 1 shall affect the operation of any existing law, or prevent the state from making any law, insofar as such law imposes reasonable restrictions on the exercise of the right conferred by the said sub-clause, in the interests of the sovereignty and integrity of India, the security of the state, friendly relations with foreign states, public order, decency or morality, or in relation to contempt of court, defamation, or incitement to an offense. Nothing in subclause B of the said clause shall affect the operation of any existing law insofar as it imposes, or prevent the state from making any law imposing, in the interests of the sovereignty and integrity of India or public order, reasonable restrictions on the exercise of the right conferred by the said subclause. Nothing in subclause C of the said clause shall affect the operation of any existing law insofar as it imposes, or prevent the state from making any law imposing, in the interests of the sovereignty and integrity of India or public order or morality, reasonable restrictions on the exercise of the right conferred by the said subclause. Nothing in subclauses D and A of the said clause shall affect the operation of any existing law insofar as it imposes, or prevent the state from making any law imposing, reasonable restrictions on the exercise of any of the rights conferred by the said subclauses, either in the interests of the general public, or for the protection of the interests of any scheduled tribe. Nothing in subclause G of the said clause shall affect the operation of any existing law, insofar as it imposes, or prevent the state from making any law imposing, in the interests of the general public, reasonable restrictions on the exercise of the right conferred by the said subclause, and, in particular, nothing in the said subclause shall affect the operation of any existing law, insofar as it relates to, or prevent the state from making any law relating to 1. The professional or technical qualifications necessary for practicing any profession, or carrying on any occupation, trade or business, or 2. The carrying on, by the state, or by a corporation, owned, or controlled by the state, of any trade, business, industry or service, whether to the exclusion, complete, or partial, of citizens, or otherwise. Constitution of India. Part 3. Fundamental Rights. Right to Freedom. Article 20. Protection, in respect of conviction for offences. No person shall be convicted of any offence except for violation of a law, in force, at the time of the commission of the act, charged as an offence. Nor be subjected to a penalty greater than that which might have been inflicted under the law, in force, at the time of the commission of the offence. No person shall be prosecuted and punished, for the same offence, more than once. No person accused of any offence shall be compelled to be a witness against himself. Constitution of India. Part 3. Fundamental rights. Right to freedom. Article 21. Protection of life and personal liberty. No person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty, except according to procedure established by law. Constitution of India. Part 3. Fundamental rights. Right to freedom. Article 21a. Right to education. The state shall provide free and compulsory education to all children of the age of 6 to 14 years, in such manner as the state may, by law, determine. Constitution of India. Part 3. Fundamental rights. Right to freedom. Article 22. Protection against arrest and detention in certain cases. 1. No person who is arrested shall be detained in custody without being informed, as soon as may be, of the grounds for such arrest. Nor shall he be denied the right to consult, and to be defended by, a legal practitioner of his choice. 2. Every person who is arrested and detained in custody shall be produced before the nearest magistrate, within a period of 24 hours, of such arrest excluding the time necessary for the journey from the place of arrest, to the court of the magistrate, and no such person shall be detained in custody beyond the said period, without the authority of a magistrate. 3. Nothing in clauses 1 and 2 shall apply to any person who for the time being is an enemy alien, or to any person who is arrested or detained, under any law providing for preventive detention. 4. No law providing for preventive detention shall authorize the detention of a person, for a longer period than 3 months. Unless, an advisory board consisting of persons, who are, or have been, or, are qualified to be appointed as, judges of a high court, has reported, before the expiration of the said period of 3 months, that there is in its opinion sufficient cause for such detention. Provided that nothing in this subclause shall authorize the detention of any person, beyond the maximum period prescribed by any law made by Parliament, under subclause B of clause 7. Or, such person is detained, in accordance with the provisions of any law made by Parliament, under subclauses A and B of clause 7. 5. When any person is detained in pursuance of an order made under any law, providing for preventive detention, the authority making the order shall, as soon as may be, communicate to such person the grounds on which the order has been made, and shall afford him the earliest opportunity of making a representation against the order. 6. Nothing in clause 5 shall require the authority making any such order, as is referred to in that clause, to disclose facts, which such authority considers to be against the public interest to disclose. 7. Parliament may by law prescribe a. The circumstances, under which in the class, or classes of cases, in which, a person may be detained for a period longer than 3 months, under any law providing for preventive detention, without obtaining the opinion of an advisory board, in accordance with the provisions of subclause A of clause 4. b. The maximum period, for which any person may in any class, or classes of cases, be detained, under any law providing for preventive detention. And c. The procedure to be followed by an advisory board, in an inquiry, under subclause A of clause 4. The Constitution of India. Part 3. Fundamental Rights. Right against exploitation. Article 23. Prohibition of traffic in human beings and forced labor. 1. Traffic in human beings, and beggar, and other similar forms of forced labor, are prohibited. And any contravention of this provision shall be an offense, punishable, in accordance with law. 2. Nothing in this article shall prevent the state from imposing compulsory service for public purposes. And in imposing such service, the state shall not make any discrimination on grounds only of religion, race, caste or class or any of them. The Constitution of India. Part 3. Fundamental Rights. Right against exploitation. Article 24. Prohibition of employment of children in factories, etc. No child below the age of 14 years shall be employed to work in any factory or mine, or engaged in any other hazardous employment. The Constitution of India. Part 3. Fundamental Rights. Right to freedom of religion. Article 25. Freedom of conscience, and free profession, practice and propagation of religion. 1. Subject to public order, morality and health, and, to the other provisions of this part, all persons are equally entitled to freedom of conscience, and the right, freely to profess, practice, and propagate religion. 2. Nothing in this article shall affect the operation of any existing law, or prevent the state from making any law, regulating or restricting any economic, financial, political or other secular activity which may be associated with religious practice. B. Providing for social welfare and reform, or the throwing open of Hindu religious institutions of a public character to all classes and sections of Hindus. Explanation 1. The wearing and carrying of kirpans shall be deemed to be included in the profession of the Sikh religion. Explanation 2. In subclause B of clause 2, the reference to Hindus shall be construed as including a reference to persons professing the Sikh, Jaina, or Buddhist religion, and the reference to Hindu religious institutions shall be construed accordingly. The Constitution of India. Part 3. Fundamental Rights. Right to freedom of religion. Article 26. Freedom to manage religious affairs. Subject to public order, morality and health, every religious denomination, or any section thereof, shall have the right a. To establish and maintain institutions for religious and charitable purposes. B. To manage its own affairs, in matters of religion. C. To own, and acquire, movable and immovable property, and D. To administer such property in accordance with law. The Constitution of India. Part 3. Fundamental Rights. Right to freedom of religion. Article 27. Freedom as to payment of taxes for promotion of any particular religion. No person shall be compelled to pay any taxes, the proceeds of which are specifically appropriated in payment of expenses for the promotion or maintenance of any particular religion or religious denomination.